Okay, so
Yeah.
do you know the biggest news today? Maybe not front page stuff for everyone, but if you're really deep in the virtualization world, sysadmins, Homelab folks, the pros, then you've probably caught wind of something pretty big that just landed. Something folks have been waiting on for, well, for years actually. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the Proxmox 9.0 beta release. We got an exclusive first look at the details, and we're going to break down why this update is such a huge deal and how it finally tackles a really long-standing, honestly, frustrating issue in Linux virtualization. This isn't just, another small update. It feels like a real finally happened moment after all those workarounds and doc dives and forum arguments.
Right, and what's really grabbing headlines, in our world anyway, is how it deals with what people were calling the biggest SAN headache.
Yeah.
The main buzz. It's all about one specific thing, native snapshots on thick provisioned LVM shared
Well,
storage.
seriously, that exact combination.
Yes, that exact one. Yes, it's real, and no, you're not dreaming.
Hmm.
Just to quickly clarify, thick provisioned means all the disk space is allocated right at the start. Better performance sometimes, simpler in big setups.
So?
But using that specific setup with LVM, shared across multiple nodes, well, snapshots were basically a no-go. And this wasn't just annoying, it genuinely impacted real infrastructure choices. I mean, we saw IT teams keeping old ESXi or Hyper-V clusters running just because of this limitation.
Wow, okay, that sounds like a massive pain point then. So our mission today, let's unpack why this specific feature matters so much. What else is new in the beta? And, what does it mean for you if you're thinking about your virtualization setup?
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's really get to the heart of this headache first.
Mhm.
For years, like you said, one of the biggest frustrations with Proxmox VE was exactly that: no snapshot support for thick LVM on shared storage. Yeah, and the key thing to understand is why it was such a headache and maybe why it took so long. This wasn't some simple bug fix.
Yeah.
It touched on really fundamental architectural stuff: how LVM itself interacts with shared block storage, how Proxmox handles VM states. It was complex. It made it incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible, to do proper snapshot-based backups or clone VMs if you were using SANs with LVM.
Right.
So solving it needed, well, some serious re-engineering deep down, kernel-level stuff. It really shows how big a deal this new feature is. It was a genuine structural limit that, frankly, held back wider enterprise adoption because snapshots, they're absolutely critical in those environments.
Okay, so a huge effort involved. And now, the big news. Proxmox 9.0 beta finally delivers it. Native support, snapshots on thick provision, LVM, shared storage. You mentioned how this SAN headache kept people tied to legacy systems like ESXi. How disruptive is this LVM snapshot feature, really? Is it enough to make enterprises who've maybe just lived with this or built complex workarounds actually switch?
That's a great question. And I think, yes, it absolutely is for many. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience for some. It was the main blocker. I've personally talked to teams who put off moving to Proxmox specifically because of this.
Wow.
So looking at the bigger picture, it effectively removes one of the biggest, most commonly cited reasons not to adopt Proxmox in the enterprise.
Right.
If you've got SANs, if you use LVM on shared block storage, you don't have to make that choice anymore between, having all the features and using your existing setup. It's a massive step towards Proxmox being a true, drop-in replacement for those older virtualization platforms. Lets companies use the hardware they already have.
That is incredibly significant. It really does unlock some huge benefits then, like migrating old VMware setups but keeping your backup workflows intact.
Exact.
Using the SANs you already own, like HP Nimble, NetApp, whatever, without having to totally re-architect for ZFS or Ceph.
Right.
And just building shared storage clusters where snapshots actually work properly. But, it sounds almost too perfect. Are there any hidden gotchas, like specific setups where maybe this new feature might still hit snags?
That's fair, and you always need to be cautious, right? Every setup is unique. While this is a game changer for the vast majority of standard LVM shared storage cases, really complex, super customized environments, they might still need careful testing during a migration. It's not like a magic wand erasing years of technical debt overnight.
Sure.
But what it does do is remove the fundamental technical reason for that debt in this specific area. So yeah, it's not just a feature. It's more like an unlock for whole infrastructures that were kind of stuck in limbo. Now they can seriously look at Proxmox without that big compromise.
Okay, so the LVM snapshots are definitely the star of the show. But you mentioned other stuff in Proxmox 9.0 beta aimed at what? Scalability and flexibility. What else should we look out for?
Yeah, definitely. Another key thing is the expanded SDN support, software-defined networking. It now handles mesh topologies better, specifically leaf spine. That's really useful for bigger setups, high-speed networks. Think 10 gig, 40 gig environments where you need those more complex network designs.
Hmm.
And just as a side note, you can get secondhand 40 gig gear pretty cheap now. So building high-performance labs or even production clusters like that is way more accessible. Makes this feature quite timely.
Interesting. And on the storage side, apart from LVM, there's something else big, right? ZFS?
That's right. They've included ZFS 2.3, and the headline there is the long requested RAID Z expansion.
Ah, finally. So you can add new drives to an existing RAID Z pool without blowing it away and starting over. Exactly. You can just add the drives now. I know a lot of Homelabbers especially will be cheering for that one. Avoids those really painful data migrations.
Yeah, it's like finding out your favorite takeout place finally delivers, even if you still have to, set the table yourself. This feature's been cooking upstream in ZFS for a bit, but having it integrated into Proxmox makes it properly production ready for a lot more people.
Okay.
Now, there are caveats. It doesn't automatically rebalance all the data across the old and new disks, for instance. You might need to do some manual work later if you want perfect balance.
Oh, okay.
But even so, it's a huge win, a massive quality of life improvement for anyone who hesitated using ZFS. Yeah. Because the layouts used to be so rigid.
And then there are the smaller things, right? Quality of life improvements in the GI, the API.
Yeah, lots of little tweaks aiming for a smoother, cleaner feel, more intuitive maybe. They're also hinting about using a Rust-based UI toolkit more in the future. They already use it in their data center manager product. Yeah. That could potentially lead to an even faster, more responsive web interface down the line.
Yeah.
Which is always nice for day-to-day work.
Okay, good stuff. But we have to remember, this is still a beta.
Absolutely.
And betas usually come with some rough edges. Caveats. What should people testing this be aware of? Any known bumps in the road?
There are a couple of things mentioned in the release notes, yeah. One potential issue is network interface renaming during an upgrade. If you upgrade from Proxmox 8.x to 9.0, your network card names, like ETH0 or NP3ETH0, might change.
No, that could break things.
It could, yeah. Especially if you have scripts or firewall rules tied to specific names. It might need manual fixing after the upgrade. Now, they have added support for alternative names and a command line tool to try and pin the names, but still, it adds a bit of friction to the upgrade process.
Yeah.
Something to watch out for.
Okay, good heads up. And what about architectures? Anything still missing for, say, the Homelab crowd playing with different hardware?
Yeah, the other notable thing is ARM64 support in the UI. It's still missing. So while you can technically run non-by86 VMs like ARM64 using QEMU directly and editing config files by hand.
You need the hardware.
The hardware, exactly. There's no nice point-and-click support for it in the main web interface yet, which matters if you're playing with, say, Raspberry Pi clusters, or maybe trying to virtualize stuff on Apple Silicon Macs in your lab. But zooming out again, thinking about the bigger picture, Proxmox 9.0 beta is landing at a really interesting time, isn't it? With all the recent licensing changes and uncertainty coming from some of the big legacy players like VMware, a lot of IT teams are seriously looking around, reevaluating their whole stack.
Right.
In this beta, it feels almost laser targeted at the exact worries those teams have.
Absolutely. It answers those key questions, doesn't it? Like, okay, how do I get off VMware if I rely on my shared SAN features?
Exactly.
Or can I actually snapshot and back up my VMs properly without ripping out my storage? And maybe the biggest one, can I really trust a Linux-based hypervisor like Proxmox to handle enterprise scale?
And the answer more and more seems to be yes. Proxmox 9.0 is really showing that open source doesn't have to mean compromise anymore. It's turning those old limitations into real opportunities, giving sysadmins more control, more flexibility, more power, really, to build the infrastructure they actually need.
And crucially.
And crucially, yeah, without those hefty license fees or being locked into specific hardware vendors.
So wrapping this up, what's the bottom line for your virtualization strategy? Proxmox 9.0 beta is clearly not just a minor update. Feels more like a strategic evolution.
I'd agree. It makes the platform significantly more viable, both in the enterprise and for serious home labs, than it's ever been. By delivering on these things people have asked for ages, the shared LVM snapshots are huge, the SDN improvements, the ZFS expansion. Proxmox isn't just playing catch-up now. In some key areas, they're actually innovating past the big guys, offering stuff that was hard to find in an open-source package before.
And probably the best part, it's still free, still open source. So if you've been on the fence about Proxmox or waiting for a reason to really test it at scale, this beta looks like your moment. Just, remember, it is beta.
Definitely test carefully. But yes, the SAN headache, it looks like it's finally over.
So the big question to leave you with, how might this shift, this maturing of open source virtualization, reshape data center strategies in the future? Not just for the big companies, but for all that amazing innovation happening in home labs all over the world. Something to definitely think about.